Since Richarlison joined Spurs for £60 million English, he has scored 3 goals for Tottenham, but he scored 10 goals for Brazil in the same time, and it has solved their problem of not having a centre-forward or an out-and-out striker they trust, while meanwhile he's now being asked to solve the Daniel Levy problem of selling Harry Kane. And I've got to be honest, as I say, to repeat myself, it was like getting out of prison watching Spurs play the last couple of games, feeling the sun on your face for the first time in years. But there's no point in pretending. His particular that game at Bournemouth, Danny, I mean, you'll have watched it. Richarlison would look like a player who people say short of confidence, but there are times when he trod on that ball, it looked like he hadn't played the game before. And we know that's not the player that the Brazilian manager relies on.
Well, from a positive, it doesn't affect his attitude and application without the ball, which is great.
That's why I couldn't believe that phone caller saying he's lazy. I don't believe that.
Oh, he's not lazy. Well, he hasn't got all the stats. I've seen them. He's not. His high intensity is great. I actually was close to doing a piece on, but I'd already done it a few weeks before on the press, and he started nearly every press, and he starts it with intent, Dan. Not that it's a criticism of Kane, because Kane wasn't that way, and Richarlison never scores as many goals as Kane. So horses for courses, but he starts the press so well and relentless with it, right? So that's a plus. He is better than he is showing football-wise, technically, at the moment. He is lacking a bit of confidence. I'll give you a great example why you need a bit of luck sometimes. He's overthinking, by the way. You can see it. So Maddison puts him in the first half, and you're
then
thinking,
he tries
go
to
on.
Cut it back, belt it.
He nutmegs it through the centre-half's legs, who falls as he dummies him. And it's a great bit of skill. And if you watch it, I get the fortune of watching it back about 4 times.
Yeah.
As he falls, it hits the lad's hand. And gets caught then under Richarlison's feet, who can't get it out his feet to slot it in, who ends up missing a chance, and then I think it was Son, was it, who couldn't manoeuvre himself?
Yeah.
On the slow-mo, if it hadn't hit the lad's hand when he fell, it was a great bit of skill, and he just slots it in.
Absolutely.
And these are the things. The header at the back post. I think he's trying too hard to hit it so firm instead of just let it hit
over
your
the line,
head.
man. Yeah.
I was with the legendary Ian Wright today, and he said exactly the same thing as you just did. He is just trying too hard. The goals are going to come. It is just a question of relaxing and trusting himself, as you say, because he's in the right position.
He needs one to go in off someone's backside. Yeah. You know, the old adage. But I tell you what, with Maddison, with the other Son, Basuma, all these lads now who are playing with a bit of confidence and freedom, more importantly, he is going to keep getting chances. So I would urge Tottenham fans for now just to keep with him.
Absolutely.
Because he is an important person for them off the ball. But it has to happen sooner rather than later, because you don't want that negativity from the fans. Not negative. No, that's wrong. I don't think Tottenham fans are negative on him, but that
anxiety maybe.
No, I think that they're on the fence at the moment. That doubt
about Richarlison.
Yeah, I don't want the doubt to transfer to him, where it creates a negative physical output for him, and then he's done with his confidence. I don't think that will happen. I think Tottenham fans, while they're winning, especially, will keep with him.
But Darren, and this is where Spurs fans, and I speak to myself about this, you can't have it both ways. You can't say Harry Kane is irreplaceable and then expect someone to replace him. They have to find a system and a combination of players to replace him. And the truth of the matter is, and yes, Harry's goals carried Spurs on his back for a long way last season. The truth of the matter is, if Spurs can sort out their defence, which conceded 63 goals, mind you, last season, they won't need somebody who gets 30 goals because they haven't got one. But if they can get someone who gets 15, 18, then you might be back in business again. What about, I mean, you probably know more about this than me, Darren. You're probably hiding the headline in your top pocket. Brandon Johnson has been very publicly now touted as a possibility for Spurs. He's not centre-forward either. So, I mean, I can see why they need a backup forward, because Son plays every game at 31 years of age and all the rest of it. It strikes me that they've accepted they can't replace Kane, so Richarlison is probably going to get an extended run regardless of how the stats look.
I think he will, and I know there isn't anxiety within the coaching staff that there is outside it. I was at the press conference and Postecoglou was being bombarded with questions, and he was like, relax, if he hasn't scored after 20 games, then I'd be concerned, but we're only 3 games in. Well, at the time it was 2 games in. at least, and were very relaxed. The interesting thing I think about Spurs, and please don't hit me over the head for saying this, but they had to sell Kane. They had to. Yeah. Kane was doing superbly well, but there were, I think, a lot of players in the side that were hiding behind him. He's revamped that squad. He's got players out that he feels have run their course. He's put players into the side. Udogie's come in. He's looked a fantastic left back already in the early stages. Okay, we are a couple of games in, but even so, Van der Ven is the left-sided centre-back they've been crying out for 2 or 3 seasons.
Duck
to water. He's got a bit of pace. He reads the game well. For me, he looks like Alderweireld when he came in and made Jan Vertonghen a better player. The two, Romero now doesn't look as harum-scarum as he did. The two of them are performing really well. Porro looks as though he's settling in as well.
Well, and Romero, has a World Cup winners medal. He's had to be the leader of the defence. He's the only one who's got any experience in this Spurs defence.
But I think
now.
He's been unhappy so far, and I think a part of that might have just been that general disillusionment that had set in, and it's actually claimed a couple of casualties, because I think Højbjerg at the start of the summer, there were noises and distress signals coming out suggesting that he wanted a move on. He hasn't been starting games for Spurs. Bissouma and Sarr have looked more energetic. They've looked more box to box. Fans are delighted with both of them. And I can't really pick out one, because Bissouma looks like the player.
Bissouma's been...
But see,
what was Antonio Conte doing?
Oh my God!
Exactly.
What the hell was he looking at in training?
And the other thing is Sarr, because
heartbreaking,
Sarr
Danny.
looks
Heartbreaking.
like if Sarr were playing for another team and Spurs were linked with him, they'd be really excited. But Bissouma, £25 million bargain, and he hadn't been getting anywhere near the side. I was on a Spurs podcast this time last week, and the Spurs fans were raving about him.
I thought after one game, let's just take a breath.
Yes.
3 games I've watched every 90 minutes. He's been outstanding. Talk about talent and comfortable on the ball. Just quickly on Tottenham, I think 2 points. One is when a striker's not really in a great vein of form, we've got lacking a bit of confidence like Richarlison. I was surprised that he didn't switch within the game and allow them to switch a bit more often, Richarlison and Son. Because Son got a lot of goals from Everton from the left.
Yeah.
And Son
Richarlison, sorry.
Who did I say?
Son, but
yes.
Sorry, I shouldn't have picked you up. But
no, swapping them. Sorry. Richarlison got goals at Everton, but Son can play down the middle comfortably, and hasn't looked at his best at the moment. So occasionally in the game, I'd give them freedom to swap.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I thought was really great from the manager, and I think I'm right. I went with it on Saturday anyway, doing my piece on Match of the Day, but I thought the deliberate ploy to tell Maddison to play deep in the first 20 minutes, half an hour, to make an extra man to stop the Bournemouth... Well, not to stop it, to confuse it, was a stroke of genius. Because Maddison wouldn't have... Although he's giving Maddison freedom when he's playing in his favourite position, and he is a super intelligent footballer, he was obviously told to drop deep and get on the ball, because he wouldn't go past Bissouma and Sarr to get the ball normally. And I did a bit of watching of the other 2 games, and he didn't do it very often at all. So it was a deliberate tactical ploy from Ange Postecoglou, who has said to him, Bournemouth's going to come flying, and we're not going to kick it long. You're going to drop in and help them. And it was brilliant.
And by the end of the game, he had so confused the people who thought they were going to mark him at different places, Rothwell and Billing, that they both ended up getting subbed off.
Well, Rothwell went off half time.
They were trying to find a solution to the positions that Maddison was taking up. So Darren Lewis, then, can I take your skillful avoidance of the question about Brandon Johnson to mean that you know a lot more than you're making out, and that you've got an exclusive which will be on the back page of the Mirror tomorrow?
I think Brendan Johnson will sign for Spurs. They're negotiating for him.
Thank you. That's all I ask.
If he signs, and I'm just interested, because I was having this chat at the weekend, and although Kulusevski's half decent, solid, I think you need more from your wide player to score goals.
That's the player that's threatened by him. That's definitely the player. Brandon can play anywhere.
I think Brendan Johnson will play ahead of Kulusevski.
See, I think he'll play off the left, funny enough. I don't think he'll play
Son on the right.
He'll play Son on the right. If you think about all the players we've just mentioned a second ago, I've seen Spurs a lot of the recent seasons, particularly last season when Kulusevski came and created a huge impression. The 3 players who are probably not where they've been in the past are Son, Richarlison and Kulusevski. And they're the ones you'd expect most from. In that game against Manchester United, Son was missing opportunities that Son at his best would be taking. And I think that for me is the reason why I'm even more optimistic about Spurs going forward this season, because I think they'll only get better. But I think Brennan Johnson coming in, he operates best off the left. And Postecoglou is seeing him, as I understand it, as an option for the left rather than through the middle.
Okay, well, and that means that the Spurs will not be inverting so much, and they will be looking for the people arriving in the box. How interesting. Listen, don't forget tomorrow...
on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.